Thank you, Cathaoirleach. Well, firstly, I'd like to warmly welcome Minister Rabbitte to the Senate. Minister, I'm raising the issue of St John of God's Community Services, and it is really in response to a letter I received from a councillor, Paddy McQuillan, in Louth County Council, in which he is involved with the service directly himself, as also he's a local representative. And he circulated to me a letter that he received from the Chief Executive, as did all the staff and colleagues, of which I have passed one on to you, dated the 30th of December 2020. And the substance of this correspondence is that the St John of God's Community Services to end its involvement in its disability and its mental health services and transfer all of that responsibility to the HSE. And St John of God's Services will tell you the reason why this is happening is that there is an issue of funding. There's a funding crisis, one that can't be sustained in their view, one that has been subsidised by them from other resources, both from their own personal resources and the resources of the order, which were never collected or intended to be used to subsidise the community services which they operate. St John of God's, as we know, provides intellectual disability for mental health services to more than 8,000 children and adolescents, and adults across the counties Dublin, Kildare, Kerry, Wicklow, Meath and Louth. It employs 3,000 staff and has volunteers in excess of that, and also at 300 locations. More than 2,500 of these are affected and are in receipt of day residential and respite services. So this is really critical. The order have told me that there is a 27 million annual funding gap and an accumulative deficit of 27.7 million. These are staggering figures, Minister. I've spoken to the Chief Executive of St John of God's Community Services yesterday, Claire Dempsey, and I updated myself, and I was very much convinced by my short conversation with her that there was a genuine willingness on their part and the brothers' part to engage with you, to engage with the HSE, and to get a resolution to this. They have a strong record, the Hospitalier Order of St John of God's, while having diminishing religious vocations. They have a rich legacy that has served this state exceptionally well in a wide variety of supports and services. And my concern here today, Minister, is firstly for the clients, the users, the service users, also for the employees that work in these services right across the country, and their families, and also the families of the service users. So this is critical. Funding is an issue. It has to be resolved. It's not a question of a blame game for the HSE versus the Department of Health versus the Hospitalier Order of St John of God. It is that there has to be a sustainable agreement that will ensure these services are done. And there's also an impact here because we know that there's government policy in relation to congregation settings, breaking up large institutions, and we've had enough talk about institutions for the last few days to keep us going for years. And so therefore there are new models of care, there are new policies of care, and they don't come cheap. So Minister, there are difficulties, they need to be bridged, and I would ask you just for your response, because I think people really want to know what's going, and can we get these talks back on track? And can we get an arrangement where John of God's will consider options with you in a constructive way, how they can fund these essential services, not for them, not for the Minister, not for the HSE, but for the people that avail of these really, really important care services. Thank you, Minister.
Thank you. Good morning, and thanks very much, Senator Boylan, for putting down this question. And it gives me the opportunity to bring you through my engagement since becoming Minister for Disabilities. St John of God's Community Service, and before I start, this is not a blame game. Absolutely, I couldn't agree more with you. This is about the service users, their families, the employees, and delivering services to the most vulnerable in our society that require the service. And while St John of God's find themselves in this particular situation regarding funding, we do know that the disability sector for a long number of years was underfunded. We also know that we have a sustainability issue within the disability sector who provide an awful lot of care, and they are not unique in this. So if you talk to many of the providers around, and if you talk to anybody within the HSE or the department, that is exactly what you will hear as the clear message messages coming out. St John of God's Community Service currently provides services to over 2,400 children and adults with intellectual disabilities in the CHO areas of 4, 6, 7 and 8. And mental health services and supports to over 5,600 children, adolescents and adults in CHOs areas 6s and 7s. The HSE has worked closely with St John of God's over a number of years to support them in their role and assist them in addressing their financial and governance challenges. Against this background, I held a meeting on the 24th of September 2020 with representatives of St John of God's, which included the Department of Health and the HSE officials, and I outlined my position and plans for the disability sector and encouraged St John of God's to engage with the HSE and to address the issues facing the organisation. Nevertheless, following a board meeting on the same day of the organisation, St John of God's formally served the HSE with 12 months' notice of its intention to terminate the provision of services under its Section 38 arrangement with the HSE, with a view to transferring responsibility for delivering disabilities and mental health services to the state by October 2021. I am keenly aware that the decision that the St John of God's may cause anxiety for many of the service users concerned and their families, as well as the staff working in the organisation. However, I would like to assure them that there are processes in place to ensure continuity of service provision, which are underpinned by service arrangements between the HSE and the St John of God's. St John of God's will continue to be responsible for providing disability and mental health services over the coming 12 months. And during this period, the HSE will work with the St John of God's to put in place suitable arrangements to transfer provision of these services to another appropriate organisation. St John of God's is required to continue providing services from the effective date of termination or expiry of the 12 months notice period until such time as new service arrangements become effective, whichever occurs earlier. If the 12-month notice period ends and the transfer of services has not yet been finalised, St John of God's are obliged to continue providing the service for up to another 6 months to allow the transfer to be completed. In effect, the whole process could take up to 18 months. I understand that the HSE also purchased some mental health services from St John of God's on a private basis, which are not governed by the Section 38 service arrangement. And the HSE is already making provision for community mental health services in Loughlinstown and Dunleary primary care centres. To conclude, the primary concern of this government is to ensure the continuity of the vital services provided by the St John of God's in the interest of the service users and families and staff.
Thank you, Minister. Senator.
Thank you, Minister, for your written reply, because I think that's helpful and we can share that. I suppose really just finally, again, Minister, to say, look, these are difficult times for all of us, be it our physical well-being and our mental well-being. They are particularly more difficult for people with disabilities and the type of people that are being supported by the St John of God's Community Services. So, look, I'm encouraged by what you have to say. I think it's important. I will write to the Minister today asking him, can we see a sort of speeding up of the engagement? Clearly, we have a time frame, as you've outlined there, but it ticks away pretty quick. And these are very complex issues, and they're very big issues in terms of finance. But look, I welcome your very comprehensive and frank layout of what's at stake there, and I would encourage all sides to engage early and ultimately to have a better and a secure service for the service users and their employees and the communities in which they operate. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator. Minister, 1 minute.
And Senator Boylan for raising this matter in the House, and I acknowledge and recognise your concerns. And as I say, it's the first time I've been given the opportunity to put it on the record about my engagement with St John of God's and my ask and my plea of them on that day not to actually serve notice on us, to work with me as a minister in that role as Minister for Disabilities, to give me the opportunity to understand their concerns and to work with the HSE and the department. That was their prerogative on that day, to take the decision that they take it. I regret it, and I certainly don't wish any anxiety or stress to be placed on any of the service users, their families, their staff. I will ensure that over the coming months that nobody will be left languishing for answers or responses, that everybody is very clear and communication will be crystal clear. I will work, as I say again, with the HSE, the department, ensuring that there's communication and service users understand exactly what's going on. Thank you.